The young lady next to me at the table said, "You think things are getting worse or better?" And I said, "I think they're getting better." She was shocked. She's very young. But I think, yes, I think that the human condition is improving and will continue to improve, barring some catastrophe, some war or natural disaster. But it only can improve if we cultivate human inspiration, human discovery, human inquiry, human invention, and human innovation. And that's an ongoing task. Now, I plan today to talk on humanism, since we're committed to humanism. And what is humanism, and what are the prospects for the future? Sitting next to a distinguished member of the Pennsylvania Humanist group, this came up this afternoon. I think that the humanists, particularly the secular humanist movement, has a great task to perform. In the last 50 years, I've been involved in these activities almost all of my time, and that is, hello, are you going to become a humanist too? That is fine, it doesn't bother me. That we corrupt them young. Where was I? So, one problem that we've had in the last 30, 40 years in the United States is the growth of the religious right and its attack on humanism. Sitting next to Steve Ray, talking about atheism and how that term has been misused and misinterpreted. Well, 30 years ago, according to the religious right, the main enemy were the secular humanists. And someone said, "What did he say, sexual humorists?" Secular. What do you mean by secular? I think that Elaine, who's been coming to these meetings over the years, can we go back 30, 40 years, and remember the attacks on secular humanism, which came from Pat Robertson and Joe Falwell, whatever happened to them, and the religious right. And we persevered, and we continued in the face of their opposition. Because it seems to me that humanism and secularism are part of the progressive development of the human condition. Well, now, let me say something about what is secular humanism. First, it emphasizes on all things human. The term humanism was introduced in the Renaissance. And the music today, some of it goes back to the Renaissance, I think, but part of the great cultural tradition of music. In the Renaissance, there's a flowering. People turn to the dominant religion of the Middle Ages, where they were inspired by God and commanded to obey His declarations and commandments, and then said, well, human life itself is good, and we need to do what we can to creatively fulfill that. So that it is creative fulfillment of human life that is what we seek, and every person in his or her own terms. Every individual has different idiosyncratic likes and dislikes, interests. Some people are interested in art, others in science, some in football. The greatest difficulty in coming here today, as I said to Joe Fox, is I was going to miss the Buffalo Bills in football. But we have many interests in many things, and that's all part of what it means to be human. And we want to develop the conditions in which we can creatively do so. But now, secular humanists in the 20th century, and not necessarily historically, begin first by rejecting theism. they've examined this notion that God is a person, that God has revealed to the human species his destiny, his salvation, and that critique begins with the birth of modern science. So, although we're critical of classical theism, we emphasize the need to develop a new method of inquiry, and so it is the quest for reason and evidence and experiment and science as applied to ordinary life as well, critical, rational, common sense, that liberates us. We no longer accept the traditional myths. We insist that if we're going to believe something, we want some evidence for it. Our beliefs are hypotheses. They are tested by their consequences in human experience and by the evidence. And it is that theme. Now, having been a philosopher, well, I still am a philosopher, the older we get, I'm in the field in which age is an advantage, because the older you get, allegedly, you have more wisdom. My wife doesn't accept that premise.